Just a moment, I'm trying to set something up here. All right, let's go ahead and get this started. All right. Thank you once again for joining us for another session of Designer's Corner. This week we're going to be going over some Photoshop. Yes, we are. All right, let me just go ahead and grab presentation here. Perfect. All right, a little bit of housekeeping to get us started. My name is Josh. I'm a UX designer. I've been in the business for over a decade here. So, feel free to ask me any questions that you might have. I got a lot of knowledge here that I'm willing to share with you. If you have any questions about getting into the business of UX design, I'm your guy. You can find me on my socials, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Kick. We're going to be moving to Kick as well. So go ahead, and you're probably watching this on YouTube right now. Go ahead and subscribe to the different channels. Follow me there. Stay up to date. I tweet before the sessions, so go ahead and follow me so that you never miss an episode. We're also on Discord. Hey, we're on Discord now. That's going to be your main hub for getting the help that you need in order to succeed. So go ahead and follow the Discord after the video. The links to the Discord will be in the presentation found in the description. Go ahead and follow and join the community, and we're all going to help each other out. You'll be able to get in touch with me. I'll be able to monitor progress, give resume reviews, help you with your portfolio, and overall just design critiques. Hey, we're here to help the community, so let's get it. All right, go ahead and follow. There is also a new check-in system. We were using this last week. We're using it this week again. Go head on over to Twitter. If you go to the description right now, you'll find the link to it. Go check in, like, and retweet. That way you'll be able to get credit for joining the session. All right, to get us started, I just want to remind everyone that if you are here, if you are joining us today, if you have any doubts, if you think, maybe this isn't for me, if you think, am I able to learn a new skill? Good news, you're in the right place. We are all here to learn, and we are all learning every single day. So go ahead, share this with a friend, whoever you think might need it. This is the place to be because we are going to learn to get those UX jobs. Yes, if you are looking to change careers, if you are looking to advance your place in life, you've come to the right place. And hey, go ahead, stick around. You're going to learn something today. We're all going to learn something today. This is not out of your league. You are meant to be here. All right? Last week in recap. Hey, last week we learned about pixels, points, and shapes. So these are going to be your main instruments for, modifying and just working with the different programs. These are the basis and building blocks to what we're trying to work with here. You want to know these. You want to know about pixels. You want to know about vectors. Why? Because we are trying to get out of these dead-end jobs. If you are not working corporate in any of these, you don't want to be delivering people's food for the rest of your life. You don't want to be picking people up, strangers in your car. Come on now. So many people in the world. Leave that to someone else. Leave that to someone who isn't here right now. You're here. You deserve that UX job. Come on now. Come get it. All right, table of contents. Here we go. We're going to take a look at the pillars of creation. This is going to be fundamental to what we're trying to work on today and this week. Sorry about that. Last week in recap, we went over the pixels, points, and shapes. You don't want to be in your dead-end job. Go ahead and get out of that. Too many people in the world. You don't need that. That's not for you. So table of contents. Here we go. Pillars of creation. We're learning Photoshop today. We're going to go over some of Photoshop's interface so you have a basic understanding of how it kind of works. You're going to get to see a little bit of the Photoshop magic. And we're going to go over last section. I need to update that again. But pillars of creation. So last week we took a look at some of the cardinal methods: selection, vector, pixel, and masking. These are the things that create the great concepts that we consider to be any type of Photoshop, any type of design. The reason that we're starting with Photoshop this week is because Photoshop nicely illustrates all of these different concepts. And not only is it one of the pioneers in its industry for, just being a photo manipulation program, but it's kept up pretty well. It includes vectors and pixels and all that kind of stuff, and it's a great resource to be able to understand these concepts. Selection does what it says it does. You're able to select an object, and what do we do with it? Whatever we want. We do all types of transformations. Everything like such as whatever you see here: transformation, rotation, scale, deletion, copy, paste, all that kind of stuff. Vectors. Vectors are points, and those points make lines. Those lines make shapes, and from those shapes, we're able to do whatever we want in order to get fancy. Sometimes we want a square. Sometimes we want an 18-sided star shape, whatever. You're able to do all that fancy stuff with vectors. Vectors are very nice because they're scalable. Pixels are not. But pixels are still the building block of what we look at when we're viewing our screen. So even if you're looking at vectors and you're working in a program that works with vectors, at the end of the day, you're going to be using pixels. You're going to be presenting pixels, should I say. Most of your designs, unless you're really working with like SVGs, which are scalable vector graphic, which are things that are found on the web. Those are nice. Those bring vectors to websites. But most of everything else that gets printed in pixels, even if it was made with a vector. But the vectors are still good because you're able to scale to certain sizes that you might need in order to print so that it's legible in the first place. Masking. This is something special that we're going to go over in Photoshop. So this is something that's not special to Photoshop, but the concept is a little awkward and a little weird. So we'll get into that when we do. And masking is very cool because it's the magic of Photoshop. All right. So just to take a look before we jump right into it, the menu system. Like anything else, like many other programs like Microsoft Office, Microsoft Docs, or Google Docs, you're going to have your menu system. The menu system is great because it allows you to kind of come back to some of the basics of interacting with the program. You'll be able to do things like open a new document or export. Those things are awesome. The toolbar, this is where you'll find most of your tools. This is where you'll find your move tool, your paintbrush, any other thing that you might need, your selectors, blah, 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 colors, all those things, they'll be over in the toolbar. Sometimes you'll find stuff in the menu system. If it's not there, it's probably a tool that you'll find in the toolbar. Tool properties. Now this is another bar that you'll see in the application. And this one is contextual to the tool that you're using. So in this case, we've highlighted the move tool. And these are some contextual options that belong to the move tool. So we'll explore a little more of that in just a moment. So let's go ahead and get started. I think we're jumping right into this. Yep. So before we actually make the document, let me just preview what we're going to see here. So in order to create a document, one of the first things you do is create a new document. With that new document, you're going to have this window pane that pops up. Depending on versions, this way in the future, this may not look like this anymore. Point being, this is most likely what you're going to be seeing when you open up Photoshop, and it'll give you some options in terms of width, height, resolution, color mode, background contents, etc. When you're choosing your dimensions, the width, it's a dimension, side to side. You're going to input the number of pixels. Sometimes you can change it to something else, inches, whatever else. You're going to create the document size that you want. Same thing with height. For resolution, if you're working in digital screens work in 72 dpi. That's just what they display. Printed items work in 300 and above. So if you're working in digital, 72 pixels per inch, and print 300 pixels per inch. All right, when you're working with a color mode, RGB, there's many different color modes that you can choose from, but the main ones are RGB, red, green, blue, and that's for digital displays like screens, tablets, phones. Print uses CMYK, that's cyan, magenta, yellow, and key, which is black. So cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Those are the colors that we mix together in order to create printed items. And then you also have your background contents. That's just gives you the color that you're using for the background of your canvas when you create your document in Photoshop. Again, width and height. More width equals wider canvas. More height equals taller canvas. Pretty explanatory. So let's go ahead and jump right on into it. Now we're looking at Photoshop here. And one of the first things we want to do is just go ahead and open up a new file. So like I said, whoop, can't see this window. Well, it's a good thing that I previewed it in the other application. We do have the window that shows you, one second. We're looking at this window right now. That'll show us our document, and we'll be able to choose different properties that we want to use for it. What I'm going to do is just something a little fancy. I'm just going to go ahead and grab a picture that I'm going to use for this. I'm just going to drop it in there. When you do that, it will open up the file with the dimensions that you already have, with the dimensions that are inherent to the file. So it makes it a little bit easier. Just kind of trying to cheat the system here. All right. So when we're working in Photoshop, one of the first things we want to notice, now I did not show you the right side panel, but the right side panel has some colors, some layers, etc. So those things are going to be useful as well. We saw along the top, your contextual toolbar properties, your menu system, and the tools along the left side. Some of the most useful ones are going to be this one right here, the move tool, the marquee tool, which we also kind of refer to as the dancing ants, and sometimes pen tool and this rectangle tool, or these are the vectors. We're going to start with them. We're going to start actually by copying this layer and duplicating it. Let me just make sure that these menus, they are not showing up. Give me 1 second while I try to troubleshoot that. Let's see. Nope, that was not it. OBS has a problem with being able to display this stuff, unfortunately, but something that we're going to have to deal with. All right, so without much context, we're actually going to go over here to layer. Even these ones are contextual, so you won't be able to see these. All right, you have to trust me on this one. I have to troubleshoot this as a layer point, but we're going to go ahead and copy our layer. So we have a saved layer. I'll go ahead and turn that off. So let me turn off both of those. You can see now with this eyeball tool, we'll be able to see our layer. So now what I'm going to do the one below it is just going to be something to save. What we're going to do a simple face swap here. So what I'm going to do is go into my lasso tool, move tool, marquee tool, lasso tool. The lasso does the same thing as some of the other ones. As I draw here, you'll be able to see some of those dancing ants going around the objects here. And what that is going to do is give us our selected area. So what I'm going to do is just go around. I just have to figure out exactly where I want to select. Go around the chin, around the outside of the face, the nose. All right, so that's one. So what I'm going to do now with that face selected, I'm going to go ahead and copy it and paste it. Actually, I'll go ahead and copy it and paste it. So now you can see I have another layer here. It's just his face. Just his face. What I'm going to do, come back to layer 1 here. And let me just go ahead and name this. Man's face. I'll name the other one baby's face in a second here. I'm going to go around the baby's face. Trying to be as careful as I can, get as close as I can, just using a mouse here. All right, great. Go ahead. Whoop, it's on the wrong layer. It gave me an error message because I tried to copy in a transparent space. Whenever you see these checkered marks, that's the transparency. I want to make sure that I'm on the correct layer. Go ahead and copy, and I'm going to paste. So now we have dad's face and the baby's face. And so what I'm going to do here, go ahead and move the baby's face over here, move the dad, and you'll see that the baby's face, which is layer 1, currently layer 1, but the baby's face is underneath the layer that is the man's face. I can swap those just by dragging and dropping, but the layering is important. So I'll move the man's face over. You'll be able to see the baby's face exposed. And now, because I have that, I'm just going to go ahead and flip the faces. Grab the baby's face. I'm just going to scale this up. Make sure that I hold the shift key while I do that. And if I need to, I can kind of just move this around just a little bit. There we go. There's the baby's face. We go ahead and grab the man's face. Give it a little rotation there. Scale it down. Hey, like father, like son, am I right? Spitting image. That's a spitting image. And now, as you can see, you can begin to feel how through this selection process. So what we did, we selected the different faces, and then we just simply copied them. We gave them some transformations. We just flipped the image around just so that the orientation is correct. But the main takeaway is that this all took place because we selected the portions that we wanted to. And so if we wanted to begin to do even more fancy stuff, we can go ahead and grab our brush tool. In this case, it's the eraser tool. And if we wanted to make it a little larger, begin to just kind of soften these edges just by erasing. Oh yeah. What are we looking at here? Oh, we're on the wrong layer. So I just want to soften the edge just a little bit. And you can begin to blend that in. So now the man, or the baby, is taking shape of the man. And you can do similar on the other side. Make sure I'm on the correct layer to the baby's face, or the man's face. It gets a little confusing at this point, but now you can see how we can start to have a little bit of fun in Photoshop. That all happened because we took our selection tool and made a selection. That was the basis of that. And with that, we're going to go into our second exercise, which is going to be a very similar operation. We go ahead and open up another photo, another happy family here. And we're going to do almost nearly the same exact thing. Going to go ahead and make a selection here. And if you don't get the selection right, what we want to do when we are on our marquee tool is begin to drag, and it will begin to form a circle. If you're in the wrong spot, go ahead and hold the space bar, and then you can reposition the marquee tool to exactly where you need it, and go ahead and release the space bar in order to continue drawing. So I'm going to just move this down a little bit, move it right there, and go ahead and just get his face. So what I'm going to do again is, now in this case I have to, I won't make a new layer of this. In this case, I'll go ahead and unlock the background layer just by double clicking on it. And then with that background layer unlocked, I will go ahead and delete his face. And what you can do after that, now that I've deleted his face, I can go ahead and grab one more image. I'll put this image right on top. Just dragging it from my folder into Photoshop right on top of the art. And then I can move it behind layer 0. And now you can see the woman's face poking out from behind this family photo. Let me go ahead and just drag this down. So now it kind of looks like one of those cardboard cutouts you see at maybe like an amusement park, something like that. Get a little bit of the background there to show just so you can see how one layer, the top layer, is allowing another layer to show through. This all happened because we used the selection tool. We selected using the dancing ants, and we deleted the man's face from this from the first image, and we just put another layer right behind it. Makes it real easy. What I can also do is come into create a solid layer and give it a color. Let's give it a kind of a gray, yellow grayish color. And then with my solid, so let me just go ahead and highlight that. This is just a solid layer of color. I have it behind this first image, and I have it above the woman's image. And what I'm going to do is simply create another selection using the dancing ants. And now with that, I can go ahead and select this white layer that's next to the solid color. You'll see the color sitting right here. And you'll see a white layer that has a little link next to it. And this is a masking layer. So with the masking layer, I'm able to then insert gray tones. So the masking, and this is one of the things that we were talking about before, this is one of the pillars of creation. Masking allows us to non-destructively edit our photos by removing certain parts. So the way that we deleted the face of the man, you can see the checkerboard coming through in the background, and there's except for the undo and history feature, there's no way to get that back. Masking, however, allows us to remove a portion of the image without actually destroying the image in the first place, which can be a beautiful thing, and it's the way that you want to think about working. Masking is like a magician's trick. Now you see it, now you don't. So now with that, I'm going to go ahead and on the masking layer, with the masking layer selected, I'm going to fill that in with some black, and now you can see the woman's face poking through once more. So what happened here, if you see the black on the masking layer, whatever's in black is hidden. Whatever's in white will show through. So we create a ellipse on the solid color layer, and we filled our masking layer. See that portion of the solid color, it's still there. If I toggle on and off the masking layer, you can still see it because we haven't deleted this deleted it from the image. We're just hiding it. And that's a beautiful thing, because now if I ever choose to make a change, I can do so, and the information from the original solid color layer is still there. Now if I had done that with the man's face here in the original image, I'll be able to do so. Maybe I can move the mask from the man's face and put it over the baby's face. But in this case, I did not do that. I simply deleted the man's face, so I can't get that back. That's gone. But in this case, now I have the woman's face, the solid color. Let's see, I don't think this will pop up. Nope, it won't pop up. But I can add a gradient on top of that solid color layer. So let me go ahead and you can see this gradient here that was added. It's one of the effects. So when you double click on a layer, you'll be greeted with a pop-up menu, which I'll have to figure out how we can show that. But that menu has some extra Photoshop magic to it. And with that, you can go ahead and add a gradient. One of the options there is to add a gradient. And so I have my effects, gradient overlay, and that's appearing on the solid color layer. And with that, now this is taking even more form to look like a cardboard cutout now that we have this edge that seems to be catching a little bit of light. So that's going to be our Photoshop tutorial for today. Hopefully you've been able to learn a little bit from that. So when we think about Photoshop, we want to think of it not as a canvas, but we want to think about it in layers. If you noticed when I was creating my Photoshop documents, I was creating a lot of layers. Hopefully if you're wise, you'll name your layers too. But you want to, what makes Photoshop great is that it works in layers. So it's more like a collage or like a Bob Ross painting. You know, you want to bring in information in layers and you want to try to keep it separate in a lot of cases. That way, by the end of it, you'll get your full scene, but you know, it will have come in layers that you can control, manipulate, and edit or delete as you need to later on. So that's how we want to think about Photoshop. Don't think about it as flat traditional art, you know, 2D, anything like that. You want to consider it in layers. So, one moment. I need to It came in the wrong order. Give me 1 second. Just refresh this. Go into slideshow mode. All right, so that is the magic of Photoshop. We're working in layers, channels, and effects. So previously, we were looking at selection. Give me 1 second. Selection, pixels, vector, and masking. So selection, vector, pixels, and masking, those are the basis to how we interact with the photos and the images that we create. When we look at the magic of Photoshop and what it allows us to do, we're looking at layers, channels, and effects. So we didn't really cover effects, and we probably won't get too deep into effects. There are a ton of different effects in Photoshop. It's the stuff that a lot of people probably think of when they think of Photoshop, but the main takeaway are the layers, and we'll look at channels at a different time here. The channels are the RGB, the red, green, and blue, and those things are great when we look at them, when we think about them, and understand how they kind of interact with each other. So when we understand how the red, green, and blue channels work together, they create the lighting effects. They create the image overall that we're working with. And they're great when they're combined, but they're even more fun to work with when they're separated. With the effects, those things are even more fun, but there's something that's extra. There's something that we don't really need to get into right now, and it's not going to be very useful as a UX designer. Those are just Photoshop fun. So, in order to stay active, your weekly assignment this week is to make a mental note that today I learned Photoshop. This is going to be very important. Today I learned Photoshop. And that's something that you want to carry with you. All right. Even I don't care if you were able to follow along exactly. Today I learned Photoshop. It's about exposure. So with that, that's going to bring us to the end of this week's session. So go ahead, like and subscribe to the channel, and make sure to share this video with anyone who may need it. All right, we're looking to build the community. We're looking to inspire others. There are a ton of jobs that we need, a ton of thinkers out there in the world. And so you're here, I'm here. We need an even bigger community to help each other grow, help each other learn, and to be able to just help out our friends. Other people looking to advance themselves in life, I'm here to teach you. You can help teach someone else. So that's how we're going to do it. We're going to be kind to everybody here. So go ahead, share the video, like it. Remember, you belong in this field. I'm glad to have you here. And as always, in the appendix, you'll be able to find a bunch of links to any of the tools you might want to play around with. Go ahead and give it a try. Thank you for joining us for this session of Designer's Corner. So glad to have you here. I'll see you next week.